Welcome to the SEO Insider with your host, Seth Price, founder of Blue Shark, taking you inside the world of legal marketing and all things digital.
Welcome, everybody. We are thrilled with one of the stalwarts of the Mass Tort space. John, it is great to have you here.
Thanks, Seth.
So tell me, I've been a fan from afar for a long time. You seem to have taken a very different approach than most people when it comes to educating lawyers in the Mass Tort space, and love to just learn a little bit about it and how you got there.
Well, I had a background in the pharmaceutical industry and medicine in general. I got out of that in 35, sold all my holdings in that, and started working with one law firm, sort of just in a happenstance kind of way. And it just grew over the years. I went to business school, I didn't go to law school. So recognizing, as was the case often with doctors in medicine, that lawyers often did not operate their businesses in an optimal way. And you know, that's a lot of industries you see that. Businesses, especially they're entrepreneurial, that they start out one guy, maybe two guys, and they build a business. And as they build it, they do what makes sense at that time.
Right.
But as a business grows, you often need to change your practices and adopt more, I'd say, corporate-like practices once you become more corporate and larger. I primarily focus on mass torts because that's the thing I contribute most to on the cases themselves, on understanding the cases themselves. But when I started teaching essentially the course in mass torts, it was necessary to me to combine the business finance elements of running a mass tort practice, because it does differ in many ways from a single event personal injury. And a lot of those ways, if you're not aware of them, you don't plan for them, can be the difference in succeeding or not succeeding in mass torts. There are great things about mass tort from a business perspective, mass tort from a business perspective, but then there are things that are very different and challenging, like the cash conversion cycles, which are very poor. The time between you spend $1 and you get it back is a long time. Fortunately, the profit margins usually compensate for that, and the practice area remains favorable as a business investment. Sometimes I use that word investment. I've had people take exception with it over the years, but that's what you're doing when you practice contingency fee law. You're representing people who could not afford to go out and hire an hourly lawyer generally. And so you are making an investment. You're investing your resources to give them access to justice. So you better take care of those resources. You need to be a good steward of money. And if you're not going to be able to help anybody. So I don't apologize for referring to cases. I'm getting involved in the cases in investment, because that's exactly what it is. And it's an investment with a good reason.
No, I get that. One of the things that, lawyers, non-mass tort lawyers, for example, the sort of people that you've helped sort of who are single event lawyers coming into this space, what are some of the pitfalls that you see that people who, hopefully your course helps alleviate, but what are some of the things that you see that lawyers make mistakes when they try to pivot into a space that sounds like it's a panacea and different from their day-to-day work?
I think what we're touching on here, it's not unique to any one business. It's very easy to make emotional decisions. In fact, humans are emotional creatures. When we think we're being completely logical and reasonable, we're not. It just makes us feel good to believe we are. But I think in mass torts, it's very easy to come in feeling like a little overwhelmed and being a little intimidated by the practice area. You're not, if you've been practicing single event for 20, 30 years, 10 years, you're very comfortable with that now. You get into mass torts at first, and it seems like it's very different, so there's a little intimidation factor. And I think one of the easiest mistakes to make is when an attorney gets that comfort level to get overexcited about it and potentially overinvest. And something I always say: never eat your milk cow. What I mean by that is that your personal injury practice that pays your bills, pays your employees, pays your light bill, etc., never jeopardize your core cash flow for expansion into mass torts. That just doesn't make sense. And I think that's one of the mistakes firms make. Obviously, quite often when you attend a large mass tort conference where there may be hundreds of people in the audience, and people who are in leadership and represent clients are talking about a case, they're generally going to tell you the good things about it and I don't mean this in a disparaging way. They represent clients in the case. They can't stand up in front of a room where they don't know for sure who all's in that room and say a single thing negative about the case where they represent clients. And so I think it's easy to be listen to someone who's involved in the case and truly an expert in mass torts. And if it's in a big room, you're maybe not getting the complete picture. And then later, if things don't go as planned, I think sometimes the newer firms, they're angry at the person they heard speak. Well, you have to go in knowing they can't, if it's a large room, they can't say there's a potential problem with a case in which they represent a client or hundreds of clients. So it's important we heard the good things, right? To be able to do your own research, and that's something I teach. And to make sure have more than one source of information before you go out and spend a significant amount of money. Because at the end, if you don't get compensation for the client, you didn't do them any good. And certainly if you don't get a return for your firm, you didn't do your firm any good.
Agreed. One of the things I see percolating is sort of just the rampant fraud in some of the mass tort aggregators, which is getting scary when you see the order of magnitude level of sophistication that's starting to we're starting to hear about more and more. As sort of somebody who's dipping their toe into mass torts, what do you think are some of the ways that lawyers can protect themselves so that they don't, sort of think they have this awesome inventory of cases and then realize that it may not be as substantial as they may have been led to believe?
I see that kind of as a two-part question. How do you not get defrauded by, somebody who's doing outbound calls, calling phone books and so forth? If you're dealing with somebody and they say we generate our ads on Facebook or television, ask to see the ads, ask to see network receipts if they say they're advertising on television, verify, because if they're producing massive amounts of leads and they say they're getting them in one way or another, they don't have to tell you their secret sauce, just some proof that they're actually doing that. And if they don't have any, if they're not spending any money with Facebook or any money with any networks or television, well, then they're not getting their leads that way. And, go by the lie to me, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me principle. Now, as far as, people who might possibly take in a case, even from a legitimate way, and do the intake for you and misrepresent that intake, you need to have when you accept a lead, you need to have your own discussion with that client. You need to go through the questions again, the intake questions. You need to listen to them. That's one of the big mistakes I think is made in intake in general, is that when a person's going to call a lawyer, people are intimidated by lawyers, even their own lawyers, that this person has steeled themselves to make that call, and they thought the narrative in their mind, what they're going to say. Let them say it before you start asking them questions, because quite often they'll answer a lot of your questions. Now, when you take that referral in or that case from any lead generator, you want to move on it quickly, talk to the client, and then also move quickly to get, if it's a drug case, at least get the use records, and the proof of injury record right away, so that you have a case. So if you're buying a significant number of leads from somebody and a significant number aren't panning out through that initial, what we have here, then stop buying leads from them.
Right. Well, walk me through it. Look, this is what I like to sort of use the remaining of our time with. Is talk to me a little bit about because what you do is unique. There are a lot of conferences you can go and sort of hear panels of people give their perspectives, but you seem to have created sort of almost the definitive CLE on how not to be a novice. When somebody, you walk into your world as somebody who's just like, I'll sign up for this and check it out. And people walk out really with a pretty good 360 understanding of the industry. Walk me through, what you do and how people, work with your organization to sort of gain that 360 knowledge.
Well, I do. What's coming up in September is just litigation updates, and and a lot about PFAS, which everybody needs to be interested in. My course, the Mass Tort Course, it's an intensive Mass Tort course, and it very much takes the E and CLE seriously. It's often described as the Mass Tort course I didn't get in law school by lawyers. But it covers everything from issues they need to understand, like preemption, which can affect cases, especially MDL cases in federal court. Or it can affect a state court case too, if a state law is preempted by federal law. But then the business aspects of it, everything from how you get your things we're talking about right now, how you get your clients. If you're going to be in Mass Torts, you need to add that to your website. You need to add those cases to your website, past clients or future clients. If you've got an email list, you can communicate with those people to good business practices. But then on the finance side, understanding the finances, it's not like your personal injury case that's going to settle in 11, 12 months. Here, you're talking about spending $1 and not getting it back for potentially 4 years. So you have to do the financial math correctly in order. I hear sometimes guys say, "Oh, I made 9x in a certain case." Like, no, you didn't. You didn't factor in time value of money. You didn't make 9x. You made 5x or 4x maybe, which is great. 2x is great, but you didn't make 9x. So understand what I call the immutable laws of business and finance and how they apply.
And I assume, like anything else, you also have to put in, if you invest in 5 Mass Torts and 2 don't end up monetizing, like that has to go into your overall calculation. Yes, you did it on this, but I assume, like anything else, otherwise you're just gambling.
Absolutely. Well, and understand that in some cases, you're going to have a higher fallout rate. In some cases, no matter, everyone can be in the whole chain can be imposing optimal practices, but in certain cases, self-identification is easy by a client. You can run an ad that a person can see and go, "That's me." Ease of self-identification. It's not as easy in some cases. And if you've got a case where something like ease of self-identification isn't easy, you're going to have a higher fallout rate because it's impossible to run an ad that the majority of your calls are going to correctly self-identify. If it's a drug case, I took that drug, I had that injury. That's easier. But if it's, let's say, a hip litigation, most people don't know what brand of hip that's in their body, but they don't know what brand of hip it is. So that's a little more difficult. You're going to have more fallout. They may have a hip, it may have had to have a secondary surgery, but it may not be the one that's subject to litigation right now. It's those kind of things. Understanding, I've learned from a lot of people who've been doing this a long time. I've had people take my course, people like Jerry Parker, who's been lead counsel, him and Richard Dawson, more than anybody, took my course, went to my very first one, took more notes than anybody ever.
I find him amazing. He knows more than everybody in the room, and he takes more notes than everybody else combined.
Well, people in his firm told me after he came back from my course, he made all kinds of changes. But I asked him, Jerry, what can I possibly teach you? He said, well, actually, from the business perspective, a lot, but part of it's just the way you look at it, And I think I came from in some ways, I'm like an outsider insider. I don't litigate. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm an observer, an outside observer, but in some way, but still an insider.
So, obviously your course is a great starting point. What are the conferences that you think are of value that people should attend if they're looking to be in this space? And part of the way I've got to know you is just having a drink at the bar at some of these national conferences.
Well, you got to go to Mass. If you're going to be in Mass Torts, you got to go to Mass Torts Naples. That is, and Mass Torts Puerto Rico is a good one. Anywhere it's going to be, but so much. This is very much a team sport, Mass Torts. So your context, who you can call on, is so important. So the big ones where there are 2,000 people are great. Or you can meet that many people. I think it's a double-edged sword. Wow, there are 2,000 people there. Oh my God, there are 2,000 people here. Who do I talk to? But those are great and they're very entertaining. There are smaller conferences sometimes to go on that are litigation specific that can be very timely. Harris Martin, maybe Harris Martin being put on with a firm that's initiating a litigation. There's not a lack of Mass Tort events to go to. What I've had people tell me about taking my course over the years is that I went to these bigger events many times, but after taking your course, I go to them and now I understand what they're talking about.
that's sort of leads me to like, so to tell people as we wrap up here, how can people get a hold of you? Where's the best place to get into John's world?
Well, my website is masstortsuccess.com. My email is john@masstortsuccess.com. But people can also call me on my cell, which is 954-803-3393. I'm pretty accessible. And I have the event coming up this September. Like I said, I focus on PFAS. And every PI firm in the country should be interested in that because it's a mass tort, but it's not. And there probably will be one or more MDLs, but there are going to be a lot of cases where federal jurisdiction is not going to exist. This has so many similarities from the work injury cases, the occupational exposure and so forth, to asbestos, with the difference being far more people have been exposed to dangerous levels of PFAS through their work than asbestos. Another difference is mesothelioma is uniformly fatal. All the cancers caused by PFAS are not necessarily uniformly fatal. To me, I'm going to leave people disabled, and the value of a disability case, a lifetime disability case, would be greater than a death case. So there are differences between the injury PFAS and the asbestos litigation, but there are so many similarities. A lot of the case law that came out of asbestos, which is a lot of the case law for Mass Torts, will be very apt to PFAS. So I think even if firms aren't interested in the consumer class actions and the water contamination, home devaluation, and all those things, every PI firm you're already in that business if you're a PI firm, representing people who have been injured at work and so forth. So they should definitely be looking at, and those are the cases that SEO and lead gen can also, companies will be very involved in. It's more of a familiar field for all of us.
Well, John, this is awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to grab a drink at MTMP and look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks a lot, Seth.
Thank you for tuning in to the SEO Insider with Seth Price. Be sure to check back next week for fresh insights into building your brand's online presence. Episodes are available to stream directly on Blue Shark Digital's website.